question is, when we get even more data than we are getting today, will we manage to remain sane?
Oh, yeah, no, I think there are a lot of things to worry about, but I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, I'd worry about whether Microsoft Windows will drive you crazy or not, but that's an easy solution, switch to Macintosh. There has been a long concern in well, Murthy mentioned the printing press. In the 1480s, 20 years after Gutenberg published the Bible, it triggered a problem with information overload. And there are wonderful passages of scholars complaining about having to deal with all this information and books of suspect origin and the like. I think information overload is not a function of information at all. It is the second-order derivative of the gap between the volume of information we have and the sense-making tools we have to make sense of it. And of course, the tools always lag behind the information. And that's why I'm sorry Murthy's here, because he should be back at Infosys making those engineers work faster to give us those tools. But we will catch up.
You know, I think the problem is not so much the availability of information, as Paul said. It's more about how well you can utilize it. For example, when you watch a professor of mathematics solving very advanced mathematics, you just wonder, how is this guy capable of doing it? On the other hand, when you have somebody in the primary school, taking time to add two numbers or subtract two numbers, etc., it may appear to be very, very simple. So the issue is not so much the kind of information, the kind of data that is available, as how well we equip ourselves to use the data to come to better conclusions, to take better decisions, etc. And I'm very, very optimistic that the human ingenuity is such that no matter what amount of data, what amount of information is available, there'll be people who will discern patterns out of it and come to good conclusions.
Yeah, we're not going to lose our minds because of information, but we may lose our memory. The very real issue here is digital amnesia. A good friend of mine, Stuart Brand, likes to observe that information in digital form lasts forever, or for 5 years, whichever comes first. We cannot read the tapes from the original Viking lander. All that data collected from Mars can't be read because there's no machine on the planet left to read the tapes, and besides, the iron filings are falling off the tape. There is a very real issue about digital amnesia, and we need to think about archival systems. I actually think we're headed into a very perverse world of digital information, where the information we most want to preserve will be lost, and the information we most want to lose, those stupid emails that you were embarrassed about sending, will be preserved in perfect digital form to come back and haunt us again and again and again. So those digital pictures of you at the party, be very careful tonight.
Explosion in technology and the props that we use today in the workplaces has led to probably dehumanization at the workplace. How do you comment on it? You are a company known for your people practices, best known for being in close touch with the individuals.
I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive. Let me look at the positive aspects of technology at the workplace. This morning, Nandan was probably somewhere here. I was in Delhi, somewhere else. My colleague Mohan was in Bangalore. Somebody else was in Boston. One of my colleagues sent a message, and within half an hour, all of us had given our opinion on that issue, important issue. Similarly, every day, Nandan, me, Chris, we all get so many messages from younger Infusians on their problems. And most often, we reply, we solve them within a few hours. This would not have been possible without technology. This, in some sense, is bringing all of us closer. Today, there is this perception within Infosys that if I have a problem, I can send a message to anybody, the chairman, the CEO, the COO, anybody, and they will come back with some answer. So that is the positive aspects of technology. All that, the point I'm making is simply this. It depends on the attitude of people. Technology is just an instrument. You can use it for good purpose, you can use it for bad purpose. You can use it to delay your response, you can use it to hasten your response. So my suggestion, my request to all the people is, use it to enhance your positive attitude. Use technology to enhance the good aspects of human behavior and perhaps mitigate the not so good aspects of human behavior. Because at the end of the day, good human behavior is the key, and we have to celebrate the good aspects of human behavior, leveraging the power of technology.
Given we have a futurist and a visionary on stage, I thought I'd ask you to predict the future, which is pretty risk-free considering we can't come back to you and hold you accountable. So,
I've been in this business for 25 years, and I can assure you it's not safe. But
it's Conclave 2015, 8 years from now. Tell me about some of the top-of-mind issues we'll be talking about. Tell me about some of the headlines, the themes in this session. Tell me about some of the surprises, both either good or bad, that will be in front of us in 2015 regarding what's happening here in India, regarding globalization, maybe even the World Cup.
well, I'm going to defer to the visionary first because he knows India better than me, and he's been to this conference before.
Well, 2015, perhaps we would all be talking of China as clearly perhaps number 2 economy in the world. Well, Japan is there, but who knows? Second, I think India would have again made considerable strides in both manufacturing and in services. We would be talking about how to compete with the developed nations even much more effectively. And as far as cricket is concerned, we'll be talking about how to retain the World Cup.
No, cricket just on the lighter side, we just spoke to the Sri Lankans and they know what's good for their foreign policy. So they're going to give us the cricket match today. You mentioned about human behavior. Taking a clue from there, do you think the advancement of technology is going to make human being more insensitive? And taking again a step forward from there, you just mentioned, which we have imported this word from perhaps Western thinking, and we say human being as human resource. Don't you think it's time when we start calling human more as source rather than resource?
First of all, I completely agree with your sentiment. We should be very careful about our vocabulary we use because the terms we use often shape our reality. Human nature is a deep constant. The way it's expressed changes based on the artifacts we create, whether they're advanced technologies today or go back, there's some very interesting research where constant of human desires that haven't changed, the way they express themselves change. and that's what creates our social volatility. But it's important to keep in mind that even periods of seeming rapid change, the things that don't change are vastly greater in number than the things that do. And a lot of what we perceive as change is merely just a different kind of an expression of something deep and constant and unchanging. If you want to understand the future, pay attention to those deep constants. It becomes very easy.
Sir, you told regarding technological advances in the urban area. There is no doubt that technological advances in future will be much faster than what they have been in India for last 20 years. But at the same time, rural population is not geared for that type of development. You talked of schools and educational institutes, English-speaking English educational institutes. Even if we start just now, it will take at least 20 years to bring that majority of rural population under English speaking when they become young for taking up technological advances. How you feel that in these 20 years, 15 to 20 years, this gap will be controlled because it will get wider day by day, and what are the problems which Indian government should think just now to ensure that these type of problems, particularly of social and economic fronts, they do not hamper our growth? Thank you.
Well, you have posed a very, very difficult issue. There is no doubt at all. But at the end of the day, leadership is all about simplifying complex issues. It is all about raising the aspirations of people to come together to solve these issues. Let me once again say, I did not say that we should force English on everybody. That's not what I said. What I said was, if we think that English is good for our children, the corporate leaders, the bureaucrats, the politicians, the military people, the journalists and all of that, we should at least provide an option to the parents who are not so privileged if they want to send their children to English medium school. In other words, that has to be a decision made by them and not by the state. That's the fundamental issue. Anyway, having said that, I believe that there are ways in which we can accelerate the reduction of poverty in the country. Look at China. In the last 11 years, they have moved 145 million people from rural areas into low-tech manufacturing. I don't think any other country in the history of this world has done such a massive job. If all of us, the political leaders, the bureaucrats, the corporate leaders, all of us say, these are the top 3 things that we have to do with a sense of alacrity, and every week we will see how much progress we have made, we will spend 18 hours a day on this issue, I believe we can solve the problem. The biggest bottleneck we have in this country is not completing projects on time, number one. Number two, leakage of revenue, leakage of money in projects. Number three, the senior people not focusing on attention to details. I think if we can correct these 3, I have no doubt at all that we can solve our problems.
Both of them have been bullish on the next big thing being robots. Professor Saffo, are we going to work for them?
Well, the good news is they're robots and they're robots. The term robot evokes notions of something like Frankenstein, intelligent, omniscient, and all that. I don't think that's likely. The robots won't look like things from science fiction. They'll be much more basic. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say that we do get a surprise, and they're, all-powerful, intelligent robots that are overwhelming and scary. You know, my scenario is if the unlikely should happen and that arrives, and we're very lucky, they'll treat us as pets. And if we're very unlucky, they'll treat us as food.
Mr. Murthy, that could, I mean, robots coding down there in Infosys campus could solve your housing and water and other problems, wouldn't it?
No, I think that's very unlikely. But even if it is, human mind is so flexible that we will find bigger problems to solve which will require only human mind. For example, in 1975, we had this technology called code generators. Everybody said, come 1990, there won't be any need for programmers at all. But then people started using some of those code generators, and they started looking at more and more complex problems. With the result, they realized that there is need for different structures, data structures, different constructs. So new languages came, new kinds of problems started getting solved, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think that will happen. However, in hazardous areas, for example, we need robots. In complex microsurgeries, I do think that you would need robots. In other words, we will use robots which will supplement the strength of human beings in areas where we are not the best. That's what I would think.